This man is believed to be 32-year-old Anthony Williams, accused of Saturday's horrific attack on a train. But could it have been prevented?
Where is that guy?
He's charged with 11 counts of attempted murder after a man with a knife stabbed passengers and staff on this train bound for London. But it's now emerged that police are also investigating 3 separate incidents in the days before which were all reported to the police, including an attack on a 14-year-old boy.
Cambridgeshire Police have, in the last few hours, reported additional earlier sightings and possible further offences. As is standard practice in these cases, they have now referred themselves to the Independent Office of Police Conduct, the IOPC, for independent scrutiny of their handling of these reports.
The Home Secretary said Williams wasn't known to the security services or Prevent. On Friday evening, a 14-year-old boy was stabbed in Peterborough. Around 20 minutes later, police were called to a nearby barber's shop after a man entered with a large kitchen knife. Just after midnight, this time in East London, a man was slashed in the face at a station. Anthony Williams has been charged with attempted murder over this. Later that morning, police were called again to the same barber shop following another report about the same man as before. And then, that evening, Anthony Williams is accused of boarding the train at Peterborough and launching another attack.
I think if it transpires that he was effectively known to the police, either at the Metropolitan Police or to Cambridgeshire Police, or even British Transport Police, there should be questions asked as to the interoperability of those forces and how information about suspects is passed from one force to the other to ensure that nobody slips through the cracks.
Anthony Williams appeared at Peterborough magistrates this morning. As well as the 11 counts of attempted murder, the court was told he's charged with assaulting a police officer during his arrest. He's also accused of the stabbing in East London hours before the train attack.
Anthony Williams has now been remanded in custody until his next court date in December. This was an initial hearing, so it was very brief. He sat in the dock and looked down at his feet throughout.
Following the attack, the government has announced a review of all rail security in the UK. There have been questions about knife crime, the use of stop and search, and whether facial recognition technology should be used on platforms. But there have also been tributes to the breathtaking bravery of passengers and staff who helped prevent further injuries. They include the driver, Andrew Johnson, a Royal Navy veteran. His quick thinking, diverting the train to Huntingdon, helped the emergency services board the train so quickly.
What he did is a miracle, really. So he knew his job, what he was doing.
Stephen Crean, a Notts Forest fan travelling back from a match, confronted the attacker, going face to face with him in a carriage. Mr. Crean will need plastic surgery on his fingers, but shrugs off any suggestion he's a hero.
There'll always be someone else that's more than you, like the police and the ambulance, and that's it, so on. You know, the people that looked after me, the doctors, and the people that do stitches, it goes on really, you'd be surprised. The medics, oh dear, they came in and the guy that came in the toilet got me out of the toilet. It just goes on and on.
And a member of the train crew who also tried to stop the attacker has been praised for his actions, which we're told undoubtedly saved many lives. He's tonight in a critical but stable condition in hospital.
Darshana Soni, well, as we reported, Cambridgeshire Police have referred themselves to the Independent Police Watchdog to look into the response to the 3 incidents which happened in the days before the train attack. There are questions over whether more should have been done to identify and track down the suspect. Now, we can't discuss exactly what happened on the train or the DLR because proceedings against the defendant are now active. But with me now are Victor Elisa, retired Met Police Chief Superintendent and head of the Forces Diversity Unit, and Professor Lawrence Sherman, founder of the Cambridge Centre for Evidence-Based Policing and former Chief Scientific Officer for the Met. Professor, let me begin with you. I think most people will be quite shocked that a man can be seen brandishing a knife, it's caught on video, and this is not somehow a top priority with police officers anywhere near or with the image on their devices looking for this guy.
The expectations of what we can do with digital systematics are very high, and we can do this in a lot of ways that make money for businesses, but this has not received the same level of funding in policing that is possible that could happen. And there's been some discussion for some years now about how to connect 44 different police jurisdictions, including the British Transport Police, which alone saved 2,000 lives last year from attempted suicides and had 400 real suicides. So in the total context of everything that's going on across the rail network, as well as in all of our different police jurisdictions, it's actually a flood of information that needs much more precision management than we have invested in historically.
So it's not joined up?
I'm sorry?
It's not joined up?
It's certainly not joined up, but that's not the fault of the individual officers. It's the fault of the policymakers who have failed to envision what we can do with our technical systems today.
Victor Elisa, let me bring you in. I mean, just, you know, on the initial incident that happens on Friday night, it gets reported a couple of hours after it happens, police don't attend. Is that normal?
No, it's a good evening. No, it's not normal. And you'll find in terms of police behaviour, police response, police officers will go to incidents that are at high risk, high threat, and the public might describe as having a bit of excitement to them. So a report coming in of somebody being stabbed, you will find that many cops will go to that to try and prevent somebody being injured, save life, and deal with something that they consider, and the public will consider, really important. You know, that saviour of life is the ethos on which most policing is based, and it would be unusual if a report came in that somebody had been stabbed.
Well, just to be clear, at that stage, it wasn't a stabbing, it was somebody brandishing a knife. But obviously there were 3 incidents, and you kind of wonder, as I was saying to the professor, you know, I think, you know, we as members of the public imagine, you know, that this becomes top priority in Peterborough. Every police officer must be out looking for this person. You know, is that how it works?
That's the way it would work, but I think what we're doing now is actually collating information with hindsight and putting 3 incidents together. What I'm not really quite sure of is how closely those incidents occurred, but clearly one incident would have led to police officers attending it. Brandishing a knife is a serious enough offence, and the real repercussions mean that police officers would go to it. So if it wasn't attended by police or it wasn't dispatched as a serious incident, that would be really surprising. And I think also that would be really unusual.
Professor Sherman, what are the questions you think that need to be looked into?
I think the big question that we look into is how do we manage events that involve different police forces within a very short period of time. This is a fellow who's apparently from Southampton, was in London doing
Let's be careful not to talk about him as an individual.
Well,
but
okay, yeah. Let's just say a hypothetical person is from one place, does something in another police jurisdiction, goes to a third jurisdiction, and then gets on the train. And all of that is something that is very hard to track if you have 44 different police states in this country, as opposed to a single joined-up system. And for the past several years, the College of Policing, the National Police Chiefs Council, has been looking at ways to not only improve productivity, but to improve the focus. And I think we have to remember that in this country of 70 million people, there is a tiny fraction of people who are out there being very dangerous. And if we had better data analytics, we could be tracking those people just like we do in London with the top 100 offenders against women and girls.
Yeah, I mean, look, something about policing is clearly working because knife crime is down, violent crime is down, the number of, reports of knife injuries coming into hospitals is down. Mm-hmm. So it's not all disastrous. But what do we need to look at in terms of these particular responses as well, rather than the systems failures?
We need a modern BOLO system, which is be on the lookout. And if we could join up these events in a national system that would work just as fast as that communication between the train engineer and the switchman for the tracks, that kind of efficiency and speed by which somebody in London could put an information piece into the system, which actually does exist. It's just very slow and nobody pays any attention to it. And it hasn't been used predictably to say this pattern of incidents is going to create a high risk of something on that train. It's theoretically possible. We have to dig in and put the big data together. But right now, we're not merging the data from all 44 forces. And we're not creating prediction models that could happen with people who are committing crimes in 10 different forces.
Victor, Elisa, what do you think we need to look at over what happened this weekend?
I think that the predictability point that Professor Sherman's just made is it's an important one, but it's one that doesn't actually deal with what we need to deal with now. One of the points I wish to make is the speed of the response of the officers when the calls came in. So 8 minutes between the call going into BTP, and clearly I would imagine there'd been some communication, and the train was put into the siding in Huntingdon, and you had armed officers there. Now, we also know that BTP carried out an exercise.
I don't want to talk about the train. I'm sorry, Victor. It's just that these are active proceedings. So I want to avoid analysing what the police response was on that particular incident, if you don't mind.
Indeed. So some of the things that we can do now is actually how do we prepare officers to be able to respond to major incidents. And I think that's within our capacity. I mean, clearly getting more officers, getting more security level people on trains, that would actually be a massive deterrent and provide an immediate response. But we know that that's fraught with getting funding, recruitment and everything else. So my point is that let's work with the things that we know that we've got in place at the moment. We can enhance them and work to mitigate and reduce any damage or harm when they happen. Ideally, we want to prevent them happening, but we know that that's not an easy task to try and do at the moment.
Victor, Elisa and Lawrence Sherman, thank you both very much indeed for joining us.